Legacy Maker, the All Sports Network.
Welcome to Commonwealth Sports Talk, Season 3, Episode 6, with your hosts, Joe Dillard Jr., Lamonte, and introducing Tyrone Montgomery Jr. This week's special guest, Marcus Kahn, head coach of the University of Mary Washington men's basketball team.
Welcome to Commonwealth Sports Talk. Tonight, I am your host, Lamonte, with the founder, Mr. Commonwealth Sports Talk himself, Joe Dillard, Joe D. What's going on, my man?
You know my line. It's another day in paradise, man. I'm just happy to be here. So,
that's right. That's right. Let's do it. Commonwealth Sports Talk, Season 3, Episode 6. This podcast is designed tonight's guest, we have Marcus Kahn. He is the head basketball coach at Mary Washington University. Basketball has been successful everywhere.
Absolutely. So, this podcast is sponsored by Legacy Maker Sports, Grind and Pray, Cane Beats. And without further ado, we can go ahead and take you right into it. So let's go.
Welcome back to Commonwealth Sports Talk. I'm Lamont Thomas. I'm here with Joe Dillard, of course. And we got our guest on, Coach Marcus Kahn, Mary Washington University. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing well, doing really well. How about yourselves?
Doing well.
Great. Appreciate you for coming on, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, so here on Commonwealth Sports Talk, we're always in every depth, every corner, every nook and cranny of Virginia. And we're just trying to show this thing, some love, shed some light on some things people may not know about here in the sports realm. We came across your resume and we got excited, and We've been watching from a while.
Yes.
We love what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And, we talk a lot about the journey, with our guests and some of the stories that a lot of people know, but we also like to get into the things that some people don't know. We want to talk about the beginning of the journey, right? We want to talk about the beginning of your coaching career, I think of 97, 98.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while, right?
What was in your mind during that time frame? I mean, and the reason why we take you back is because all coaches have that beginning journey. And so we try to understand what a coach is thinking at that initial step. And then, mind you, I know you had just finished school because I studied the resume, but how were you thinking coming in as the coach? Was it like, I'm going to push forward? What was your thoughts in that?
Yeah, I think in the beginning it was, if I'd like to get into coaching, I wanted the competitiveness of it is what really drove me as a player and an athlete, and also now as a coach. And, I was kind of all set and prepared to kind of do the high school thing, teach, and hopefully get to coach in high school. I was fortunate enough to get into the college ranks, and I was in California. That's where I'm from originally. And a guy that was a graduate assistant during my time playing got a job back in his home in Iowa. And so that was my first job. And so I just thought, if I'm ever going to do this, I think it was an easy decision to make, knowing that I had to go, get to go do this. If I was going to make it work, I had to go. And I think it's one of those now where, like, when I talk to guys trying to get into the profession and they ask me, do you know of anybody looking? And I'll say, well, I got a friend out on the West Coast. Well, I kind of want to stay close to home. In this profession, the opportunities are so few. Yeah. You got to jump. And so I'm really glad I made that decision. And I literally got the call on a Friday and was told I needed to be in Des Moines on Monday. And packed my car up and drove. And
I love it.
Yeah. So
see, some people don't understand. That's usually how it starts on that collegiate level. That collegiate level is a road untraveled by most. And so when you have to make a split decision on a life change and then also turn around in less than 72 hours and make a move, you have to be built for it. You have to love it. You have to have passion. And so that's why I was looking at your resume and I was like, he's got to have passion. His travels and his ranks. I mean, he's been successful. I love that part. We all talk success. But to have a journey untraveled like most, or to build from the ground up and to keep going, is just straight admiration on our end here, man. I love it.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's and then once you're in it, it's like, well, hey, I got to keep going now. Like now, if I turn back, there's it's too late for that. So
absolutely.
From there, I was at the end of that year, I was fortunate enough to get a graduate assistant job at Wesley College in Delaware, that's what's brought me to the East.
Where's Wesley College at? Because
right in Dover, right down the road from Dell State.
Stop playing. My family's in Dover. That's a slap on my wrist right there. I know Dover Downs. I know Dell State. So right there. Okay.
Yeah, tucked away right there. And so I spent 2 years there, and was fortunate enough. Yeah. From there, moved up to Pennsylvania to Albright for a year. After that year, the guy I was coaching under got a head coaching job at Shepherd Division 2 school in West Virginia. So I went with him there.
That was an awesome experience, I bet.
It was great. It was great. And I was there for a year, and then I got my first head coaching job at the University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg. So
awesome.
Moved on up to Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and spent 6 years there. Probably, my head was spinning for the first 4, trying to figure out what I'm doing. And I think anybody, if they're honest with you, in those first years as a head coach would tell you the same. But had the opportunity then to move to Cabrini College outside of Philadelphia. And that, that was a really good move for me professionally and personally and in every way. And we had some really good runs and really good years there. And then the opportunity came here at Mary Washington, and I kind of viewed it as, Cabrini was a smaller private school, and we could kind of hit the ceiling. And I just felt like, okay, if I'm
Coach, hold on, Coach. No, kind of hit the ceiling is an understatement. So at Commonwealth Sports Talk, we're going to let you get your flowers and your roses. So 2011, 2012, this guy went 31-2. Best record in Division III in the nation. He took his guys to the championship and then took them back to the Final Four in the following year. So kind of good, kind of reached the end.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. And I'll tell you what when I knew it was kind of time for me that I needed that next challenge to keep going.
Absolutely.
Was my last game coaching there. And at the time, I obviously didn't know it was my last one. But we were 20, I think we ended 27-2 my last year. And we lose got upset in the second round of the NCAA tournament. And, it was like as if we were 0-27, just the way everybody felt. And there was such an expectation that if you didn't win every game, then it was just a disaster. And I think that's a good thing. I think it shows what we had built.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I could feel it myself. I just didn't appreciate it all, the wins as much. And so I have enjoyed at my 3 spots the building of the program. That's been probably the most rewarding for me, was coming in not really knowing the team and then building it and making it my own. And I think we've done a pretty good job at all 3 spots of being competitive and getting our programs where we want to be. So,
yeah, that span, you were in 5 years, says you were 131 and 19.
Yeah,
And that 5-year span was the best record in Division III basketball.
That sure was.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Absolutely. And we noticed that, I really like that story that you told about, driving out there over the weekend. Like, you really just met your window and you went for it, right? Because that's the journey, that's the testament that you literally followed your convictions, right? Like, you jumped in the car and you said, now, it's now. Time is now. Everything else will come later. But if I believe in this, you gotta bet on yourself. You gotta believe in yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I think that's the same with each move is. I think you got to believe that I can do it, and I can do it there. I was told, from my first head coaching job, Pitt Greensburg. They had won 6 games in 2 or 3 years before I got there, and I was told, oh God, that's going to be a dead end job. And I just had to think, I got to start somewhere. And no one's, my first head coaching job is not. It's not going to be the best one. Yeah, it's not going to be the best one, and so you got to make it and do with it what you can. And
that's why I love the grind.
Yeah,
that's why I love your grind, because you took on nobody. It's not a favorite job, but it was your job, and you did it your way. The coaches, the collegiate coaches we brought on, the one thing I've admired and why I reach out is because they do it their way. And when you do it your way and you're successful and you're a man moving forward, that's why we bring people on this show. I love it. So you can keep talking that, but when it hits them points, I had to bring that up. Actually, let me throw you a curveball. So you was in Philadelphia. So I'm guessing that's when your relationship with Fran Dunphy kind of evolved. And can you take me kind of through that and how that relationship is so essential now to you?
Yeah, so during my time there, I would, leading up in the preseason, I would go around. I would go to practices at Villanova, at Temple, at LaSalle, Drexel. In Philly, you have everything's at your fingertips. And so we would go around, myself and assistant coaches, and watch practices. The AD that actually hired me at Cabrini had been at Temple. So he had a really good relationship with Coach Dunphy, and he connected us. And then from going and watching his practices, and he and I just kind of built a relationship. He's probably he's the best. Talk about just a human being that cares about people and doesn't, he's in it for the right reasons. I really, really loved watching his teams practice and watching him coach and just listening to him. And, afterward, a lot of times if you go some of those practices, they kind of shake your hand and keep moving about their day. He would always stop, and he didn't have to give me the time of day at all, right? But he would come and sit down and talk, and even to this day, I can call him if I have questions or pick his brain about something. So
I believe he's one of those guys that when you look at him, he is genuine from afar. That's how I viewed him when I saw him. You would send your child and go play for him. You don't see anything wrong. You know that he's going to tell you what it is. And sometimes it does have to be bad news. That's what you admire about people who walk that straight line. So they're able to be personable, and they're able to guide you the right way without filling your head or without leading you down a bad path. So I saw that in him. I love that network that's out there in Philadelphia. It is amazing.
It's a tight-knit group. And I tell you what, it was a little intimidating those first couple of years. I think maybe that's what helped, because all I did was concentrate on my team and as I was building my own network. That's a in the world of basketball, that's one of the best cities there is.
Absolutely.
I like that. You like you said, we talk about you building your journey. Everywhere you actually build in the program, how much pride you take in that. All the coaches know that building a program, that's the beauty, right? That's the beauty of coaching, right? You go to University of Pittsburgh.
It's really bad.
Like
It's
you said,
4% chance of precipitation,
one,
but it's also going to be 20
Yeah.
something.
right? You come in the first year, you go 14-12. Something before you, right? Like when you do that, you get the guys. You get the guys that are there.
Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday night, just like 4 decisions.
Right? Talk about being a leader of men in that way. Right? Being the team, camaraderie build up.
Yeah, and I think that it just starts from day one. You've got to be. I think early on, like that in the first job at Pitt Greensburg, I just came in, and again, I think I was at least self-aware enough to know that I don't know everything, and that my head was spinning at the time. So, what can I control? What is it that I can be good at? And I think then it was bringing be high energy, confident in what I'm doing. Whether it was a good decision, bad decision, I got to own it. I had to and make sure that the players knew that. When I did make mistakes, hey, it's okay. Like, we're all going to do it, but we got to keep moving forward. When I got to Cabrini, I think I was a little more. Obviously, I had 6 years under my belt. I knew a little bit better on how to do that. And then even here, I came in with a lot more experience and maybe even higher expectation. But I think the key to it is just being honest and being who you are. You can't. I think the guys will see through anything else. If I came in and trying to be something I'm not, and I tell them this. They probably get sick of hearing it, but you're going to be the truth. And
you there, Coach? I think it kind of came out.
I'm sure.
I have something wrong. And
there it is.
Bored.
We got you back, I believe.
All right, we're like 25 miles away from one another. It shouldn't be too bad.
Right? I don't know what's going on. I'm definitely interested in hearing this.
It might be mine. I don't know. Why is it his intercepted? There we go.
We're back. Got us?
I think that was me, Coach.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I don't know.
There we go.
We're back. We're back. If you can hear us.
I can hear you. If you can hear me, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go right moving forward into Mary Washington, how you started off with, and this is very complex because obviously this is your third stint, and the first 3 years you went 35 and 44. But however, in the playoffs, you found yourself in the semifinals twice. Talk to me about your playoff experience and how you must obviously turn on a different engine, regardless of the regular season, to get those boys ready for a postseason run.
Yeah, well, I think very tough, and even that first year, I think it just took everybody a little bit longer for us to click. That was a tough year. We started off 0-10, and but we found ourselves in the semifinals of the conference tournament at the end of it. And so it was just a matter of keeping them to stick with it. We got to stick with what we do will work. And then, once we got a couple wins under our belt, I think we were confident. And, even that next year, like same thing. And then, recruiting is obviously the number one thing. I mean, that first year, again, we weren't, we struggled. So we knew as a staff that recruiting was going to be the key to it. And I think we've done a really good job with that over the years. And I think our roster proves that. It's been frustrating not getting over that semifinal hump, but I also know that we're playing in a conference here, we're night in and night out. It's brutal. And, we're getting two or three teams every year making the NCAA tournament. And so it is, you get to that Final Four and, those teams can go and win other leagues. I think we've all proven that in our non-conference play, in our non-conference record. That by the end of that year, you just kind of beat up on each other so many times that it's tough.
Absolutely. So how has it been without having a season? I know that's a tough adjustment, man, and everybody's been dealing with this times, but how have you been trying to keep everybody afloat or their mind on the goal, at least, to be focused?
Yeah, it has been a very frustrating year, to say the least, in a lot of ways. And it's obviously nobody's doing, right? I mean, it is a crazy time. And so I think just, again, kind of just being upfront and honest with our guys and letting them know, like, hey, this is how it is. And so we got to find nothing's going to change. We're not going to all of a sudden come tomorrow and get to play 10 games. It is what it is. So what can we do to get better during this time? And we spent time in the fall in small group workouts, which is something we traditionally can't do during the course of a regular season. We don't have the time. So that was good. And, we're going to start that back up here in the spring and, get to work on a lot of individual skill work and get a ton of shots up and kind of use these next couple of weeks in the spring as we get going again to kind of like football would use spring ball, right? Really use it to get ourselves prepared for next year. And just kind of get a jump start on that. And that's, strength and conditioning is a big part of it, obviously. But when we're in the gym, I think that our plan right now is using the spring. It's kind of like a spring ball. And put everything towards next year. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm sure it affects every, aspect of the season in terms of, scheduling, what you guys do on the coaches end. Like, you can imagine, what it will do for recruiting. Definitely tough for that. And you already have your challenges recruiting, so you want to talk a little bit about that, about what recruiting is like and how it's different, in terms of the other levels.
Yeah, it's for us there is no dead period really. So we're out. We don't really have a dead period. So that's gone from that where you're out, every Tuesday, Friday night, weekends, to nothing. You can watch some games online if schools are. It's just so different, and I think that it's going to be interesting to see how recruiting classes shake out coming off of this.
Yeah,
probably in the next couple of years, even not just this one, but over the next couple. What guys keep their eligibility and come back for a fifth year versus continue to go. And I think that that's going to happen all over, and there'll be a lot of shifting. So not really having a summer to go watch kids, in the AAU circuit and figure that out. It's just been
gotta be crazy.
It is. We've been in a very fortunate situation where we returned everybody from last year's team to this year. So it's not like we were out looking for 5-6 guys. We had a roster was set. So we're in a good spot, I feel like, if we can bring in a couple, but it's different, and I feel bad for the high school seniors that are out there that were, really hoping this would be their year to get noticed. And, they're either not playing, or if they are, there aren't coaches in the stands because they can't be. And
Yeah.
so it's crazy.
So how is that as a college coach? Have you had an opportunity to like try to recruit for that year, or did you just bypass it, being that you're in a fortunate situation? I mean, that's got to be crazy.
We can be very selective, guys that we have seen in the past where we normally might cast a wider net. We've just kind of taken the mindset of let's just be really selective about who we're going after and not. I've never liked the over recruiting thing. Like that's just nothing. I don't want to get myself in trouble.
It's hard to be personal.
Yeah.
It's hard to be personal with that. You can't give yourself to 80,000 people and do it the same way. But you pick your people and you give them who you are and you tell them why you think they're important. And I mean, I can only respect that, as a parent, as a coach, as a player. That's how you have to be.
Yeah, and that's what we hope for. And so again, for us, we're not going to go out there and bring in 3 or 4 more wings if we've got 2 that we know are here. And it's been that's just kind of been my philosophy to it. And because I think when guys get here, they're happier, they stay. They don't get here and say, "Wait, you told me I was the dude, and now there's two others of me sitting in the locker room with me." So it's always just been mine. Hey, let's figure out who we want to go, and then if we don't get that guy, well, then we know exactly who our next guy is, and we just, listen, I've probably gotten burned by it in the past but it's. I also think that it works out. The guys on our roster, it's helped us get them. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get guys that fit the program, right? Like. It's so much easier for them to buy in, and then talk about not over recruiting. It kind of just like getting in the car, right, and going to your first job like on the spot. I got my shot, I got my money. That you're intentional with it, right? So you're intentional with recruiting. You know what you need there, and you go and fill it with a purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I do love how you stay local in the area as well. I looked at the roster and I love that the local talent has been produced in your roster. And so that is an amazing testament, which is why we have Commonwealth Sports Talk. We try to have somebody that exemplifies what it takes to let these kids from Virginia have an opportunity to be successful adults, and to be successful citizens. And if they do get the chance to be successful athletes, that's also a perk. So I know that's your approach. Also being a professor and coaching, that is something rare, and that is awesome. So I commend you for that. So that's why we brought you on. I mean, I really admire you from afar. I like what you're doing, and just really appreciate what you've got going on over there, that program.
Absolutely.
Well, I greatly appreciate all that, and you guys giving me the time to come on and talk about our program. I love it's my favorite topic. So
absolutely. I'll give you a current last season, since there was no 2020 to really kind of dive into. So you have a big 3 kind of, but you had 5 guys averaging 10 points a game. How is that offensive push to have that ability to have so many weapons available every night to kind of maybe obviously when you average 10 points a game, for those in the audience listening, that means you can pump 20 to 25 any given night.
Yeah,
it's possible, and you're a team player at the same time. So how do you have 5 of those? What is that all about, Coach?
Well, we probably have a couple more than that too. It's been that at least have the ability to do that. It is something that we preach to our guys from the moment we start recruiting them. We put it on shirts. Self-importance is our greatest enemy. It is written all over our locker room. It's written on our top of scouting reports, any letterhead we do within our team. It's on there, and our guys buy into that, and they know that. And what we say to them is, listen, we're going to put 5 guys on the floor at all times that can score. So it doesn't have to be you. And if you take a bad shot, you're hurting us, because that means someone else over here is going to, and you're all going to have your night. You just can't, you got to be ready when it's your turn, and you can't care when it's not. Like if we can't get caught up in, my touches or my points or my rebounds, or if we're winning, I mean, that's I say it to them again. It's one thing I say all the time is I don't really care if you ever score for us, and you need to know that. I
Yeah.
care that we score. I care that we score.
Exactly.
And I care that we win. And, listen, it always takes a little time to
Yep.
bring in enough good players who were the man. They think they're just going to be the same thing. And but when it clicks, and I mean, it's why we can have 5 guys in double figures. And
That's a testament to efficiency. I think that's how you're kind of defining everything you're saying there. It's efficiency. It's not about if you can make the tough shot all the time. Not about that. It's about making the team in the best position to be successful. So that extra pass is preaching the efficiency. And when you do get your time, you have to be efficient in order to succeed. And so that is what is going on. And it may not be scoring, but guess what? That plus minus talks at the end of the day, don't it, Coach?
Absolutely. And that's something we talk about all the time. One of the stats that I do look at right after a game, just the 2 main ones I look at is assist to turnover ratio and how many made baskets were assisted. And the nights when we're winning and we're getting into the 80s, 90s, the majority of our shots are assisted. The nights when we struggle scoring, it's a one-on-one game. And so our guys see that. It usually takes a tough talk in a film session for them to really get it, but the numbers don't lie, like you said, and it's so yeah, we just keep on with that.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and imagine how hard it is for the other team when they're scouting for it, when they see 5 guys with double figures, right? Because where do you go? Everybody with the jersey on can light you up. When you have that, it's just a greater advantage.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying. We're again, we got 5 guys we feel that we were putting out there last year that could all score, and so it's a good feeling. So
no weaknesses in arm.
I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to a couple of those guys. Your leading scorer, Drew Johnson. Greg Rosen, your leading rebounder, Drew Johnson. Those guys led the charge. Both forwards did a great job. You had Deshaun Cook, pretty efficient, short dog. I've got some experience with him in my time as well, Coach. And so you got a well-rounded cast of guys. Did it take like some type of gelling, or how did it? I mean, I understand everybody in college comes in as the guy, so it's got to be some type of good gel and chemistry that's being displayed, I'm guessing.
There is, and it's a testament to them. I mean, we can put them all out there and we can preach them about the self-importance and and all of this, but until they really feel it and believe it and want to get it that way, it is just talk. And so credit to them. And and if I'm being fully honest with you, it took a year. That first year with Rowson and Day, they both wanted the ball and they both could score. But this past year, they shared it a lot more, both of them. And, all that other stuff about who's going to lead us and who's going to be our best freshman, and that went out the window. And I'll say this too, and they'll both tell you this, so I'm not telling you anything they don't already know. The bench cures a lot of that too.
Coach, that's the coach laugh right there.
Yeah, they've both spent some time next to me because they weren't sharing it when they should have, and
the perception is totally different on the bench. The perception 100%. Is totally different.
100%. So, and you mentioned Drew Johnson. I mean, he's another one that's been just a stud for us. He's not our biggest dude, but he knew we struggled rebounding this year, and he became our leading rebounder. So he's one of those guys that'll do whatever it takes to win, and that's why he's hard to take off the floor for that reason.
Oh, love it! I love it.
Oh man, I really enjoyed that. Man, Joe, what else you got for him?
I mean, Coach, I was hoping Legacy Maker was going to get an opportunity to cover you guys. So hopefully this upcoming year we'll send out an invite and get that squared away, as we've talked before. So hopefully we can get in the building with everything getting better each month, hopefully. So we definitely appreciate your time. And we will keep in touch because like I said, I'm only 20 some miles away. So I was dying to come to a game this year and things change.
Yeah. I know. I know. We'll get you out a lot next year for sure.
No problem.
Be there.
Good.
We
Appreciate
appreciate you coming on Commonwealth Sports Talk. Like you said, we'll be watching. We'll be there.
Well, I appreciate it. Really appreciate you guys having me on and spending some time with you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Coach. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody, to Commonwealth Sports Talk. Tonight, I'm going to be your host, Lamonte Thomas. I'm here with my main man, Mr. Commonwealth Sports Talk, Joe Dillard, a.k.a. JoJo D. And for the first time, we got my main man, Ty Montgomery, on the podcast. How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. How y'all gentlemen doing?
What up, Ty?
What up, Doe?
What up, Doe?
For those of you who don't know Ty is also the creator of the Ballin' Podcast on Legacy Maker Sports Network, so make sure you check that out. This podcast is brought to you by Legacy Maker Sports, Grind and Pray, and this podcast is designed to teach and inform the listener and the viewer on the positive advancement of Virginia athletes, born or raised, and definitely born and raised. Today's episode, we are going to talk about Division III basketball, the staple that it is in Virginia, and also the opportunities to develop a polished basketball product out of these D3 programs. All right, so first topic on the board is if we're talking Division III and Virginia basketball, we got to talk the ODAC conference, which is the Old Dominion Athletic Conference, right? So these schools, mainly private schools, we got Bridgewater.
Yeah.
We just had
Ferrum
on. We had Coach Marcus Kahn on. We got, I believe Ferrum is a part of that. A whole bunch of schools, Hampton, Sydney, Shenandoah, right?
Yeah, it's like 16 schools in the conference, and like 14 of them are from Virginia. So it's like really loaded on that back end of the state, like that west strip that kind of goes mountainside. So I think we've got Virginia Wesleyan in the 757, Hampton Sydney in the 804, and then it kind of fades to black after that as far as the rest of the state. I think 705. What is it? Fredericksburg has one with Mary Washington. And I think there's one more a little further north of them, but mainly the rest of them are on that back end, Route 29.
Right. But the interesting part about that is that the embedded DNA, the basketball DNA that is in Virginia's roots, right? Like you said, 14 of those 16 teams out of Virginia, 2 of them in North Carolina. So first, let's talk about what type of programs these are, because Joe, and we talked about a little bit earlier, these schools don't have scholarships regularly to just be given out, and these schools can also be pretty expensive. So let's talk about the kind of kids we're getting in these programs first and foremost.
Yeah, first and foremost, shout out to you for hosting, because it allows me to just spit off the top of the head and I get to be raw with this answer. So, generally speaking, it's a kid that can't qualify for financial aid, doesn't get a scholarship for his athletic sport, may love his sport to a T, that has to go through and see it out. One that has a dream, a self-driven dream, that maybe didn't get the opportunity to flourish at the secondary level, and then kind of, get exposed the right way. Because when you're Division III, obviously you are paying. And so regardless if you're a scholar and you are smart to get, grants, scholarship money, you're still going to have a balance each semester, each year. So it has to be some type of full long-term plan in place. So I hope that most of those kids already know that they have something lined up far as the long-term picture. And so you have those ones that are well ready and can handle it. You know what I'm saying? That's usually your Division III player.
Absolutely. And now, Ty, I'm going to go to you for this one. You talk a lot about, the NBA, right? Let's talk a little bit about what you envision that a player? I mean, let's talk about like the comparison for the sake of that matter. So you got these kids remind me the Division 3 level kind of reminds me of NBA comparison of the Terry Roziers, the Andre Ingrams, the Ingrams. You remember Ingram from LA, the guys that come out of nowhere, right? But yet they've been there the whole time. Their grind is a long story, right? So my question to you is, what are you looking for out of a product on this level? Like, what can make you say, hey, this guy can go the distance?
Well, when I think of Division 3 players, it makes me think of Drake. Started from the bottom, now I'm here.
Tell him, man.
So these guys, they absolutely love the game of basketball, and in a sense, they're like gym rats, gym junkies, and they're fighting for their shot. You mentioned Andre Ingram, a G League player, and he had an opportunity to play for the best franchise in the NBA, the LA Lakers, and he lit it up. And kid from Virginia, he had his shot. He took advantage of his opportunity and he shined.
Shout out Highland Springs.
Highland Springs, baby.
There it is.
Brought them their first basketball championship in 02-03.
Yep. So
Commonwealth knowledge.
Commonwealth, baby. So that's what you're looking for in these Division 3 players. Some players that absolutely love basketball, that they bleed basketball, and that's all they think about. They're not distracted by other possible distractions in life, and they just want to win. They just want to play ball. And you see all these other players that get in trouble and they get distracted by so many distractions, but these guys, they just love basketball.
Usually they've had some type of adversity that they faced too, because obviously it wasn't the clear-cut path that you would think of these kids that are in the Division 1 or straight to the league or even overseas. But it's more of they're battle tested when you get them. They've got to be battle tested. There's no way that you've got this kid that's going to flake on you by the time he's took this route, untraveled route. Very few that can say they've had success with. And so it's very hard to have that thought from the very beginning and then to push through every wall that is in front of you to be successful.
Absolutely. And sometimes, this is an exposure situation for these kids. Sometimes they not only know this from coaching, in the private sector, that sometimes they've played with all the kids to get the Division 1 looks, right? But they may not have had the exposure, that those same kids have had. And at the same time, they do things the right way to the T, right? Like, they're not going to go and play for your sponsored teams, or they're not going to go and play for the teams just because they're going to get exposure. They believe in themselves. They're betting in themselves from the beginning. And so with that being said, they're just going to go play where they feel comfortable. And sometimes that will land them, in a D2, D3 situation. And they still feel like, hey, this is still my chance to do what I've been doing, and that's shining.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So specifically, we got a chance to talk to Marcus Kahn.
Good dude.
Yeah, for sure. On last week's show, and he opened our eyes to a lot of things, with the pandemic going on, and it already being a recruiting challenge. Now this thing is a mile long, right? Because now to replace guys, you have to get students that are going to come in here, student athletes are going to come in here and pay, like Joe mentioned earlier, and they got to be the right fit for your program. So Joe, how do we go about that?
A Hail Mary. I mean, like
Research.
Blow said, sometimes you hit a double, sometimes you hit a single, sometimes you strike out. He said it. Right now, it's 3rd and 20. It's last shot. It's 0.5 on the clock. It's a lot of that. And what I mean by that is that you have to make whatever process you're used to, scratch it first and foremost. Scratch that recruitment process you're used to. You're going to have to go to your pipeline. Hopefully you have a network. Even when you do have that network, it could be messed up with you taking a crap shot on picking a kid that might not be the right fit. He might not come. You might have spent your time on them. It's so hard for a Division III coach to get a recruit to commit, like long-term commit, because once when they say they're going to come there, if any other school offers above them, that is taking care of their schooling. You can't tell them that they're still supposed to be coming to you. It's you have to scratch that and you have to pick up where the next kid is.
Facts. They gotta go.
So sometimes, guess what happens? You end up with too many, and because it's always an enrollment thing. We'll apply because it's not a scholarship offer; it's an apply process. So it's very hard and tedious as a D3 coach to be successful continuously with that product, that process. You know what I'm saying? That's not what Division II and I coaches are accustomed to. I don't think too many Division I or II coaches ever go to Division III. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a different situation too. It's almost like that business model, right? You got to under promise but over deliver, right? And I think that's kind of from the perspective of the program. You have to
Damn, that's a good way to put it.
believe that they really want the best interest for these student athletes, right? Because what else are you getting? Like we talked about the programs having really good facilities. Sometimes they're really upstanding programs. They have a lot of resources, but their names aren't ringing in the basketball world like Dukes and North Carolinas and Division I schools. They're not known to be a basketball powerhouse. So if you're not doing it for the student athletes, what are you doing it for?
However, in the state of Virginia,
Get 'em.
Commonwealth Sports Talk does recognize the CNU facilities, the Mary Washington's facilities, the Eastern Mennonites facilities, the Virginia Wesleyan facilities. And these programs take pride. Like I said, with no scholarships, they still find a way, whether long money, alumni money, or however that money comes. They've taken pride to build some very nice facilities. Mind you, CNU has an indoor track. There may be only one of 5 in the state of Virginia, and that's Division III. So they are providing a resource for people that is maybe one of 5, one of 7 in the state, Division III.
All right. Now let's talk a little bit hypothetical. We got our NBA man on here, so I got to take advantage of that. So Ty, if you are an NBA GM, right, and you're told, hey, I got this product that can help your team, man. He's straight out of Division III. He's looking to get, a tryout, league experience. He's vouched by this guy, that guy, the third. When you go to see this guy work out, what are you looking for to help your team skill-wise?
Well, I think with that question, I think you got to consider which team it is. Those team needs. Maybe they need some outside shooting. Maybe they're looking for more rebounding. Maybe they're looking for floor general. But at the end of the day, in today's era of basketball, if you find a 3-and-D guy, you can plug and play that 3-and-D guy. And it's so simple. I think basketball has grown over the years and is elevated to a totally different level right now. And you just got to simply play a role. And if you can play a role and play it to the fullest and excel at that role, you'll have a place in the NBA. I guarantee you, because coaches and GMs, they're looking for those 3-and-D guys.
That was awesome. You brought up 3-and-D. I love it. It made me think of Kyle Kuzma knowing his role now. Kyle Kuzma is great at what he does. They asked him to either shoot it or take it to the hole, but be quick and be reactive and cut. They made it very simple for him. And because of that, he got to stay behind from the last. He's the last of the rookies or the young guppies to be a part of that dynasty that they're trying to build in LA now. And so a 3-and-D guy goes from anywhere from the point guard to the center in modern day basketball. You can't say, oh, he's a 3-and-D guy. You'd be like, oh, well, I don't want him. You can't say that. You're not going to say, oh, well, what position does he play? Because I'm really only looking for a power forward. A 3-and-D guy gets a shot because he's playing defense. He's stretching the floor. And then what else can you ask for?
And then along with that 3-and-D guy, if you have your star player, you're not taking the ball out your star player's hand. your star player can still cook and do what he needs to do on the floor to help the team win basketball games, and your 3-and-D guy is still able to contribute and help the team win.
Absolutely.
Perfect fit.
Being that this was going to be a topic for this show, I got a little background information. So we got NBA guys who have been D3 players, some of them D2 as well. Let's start off. Duncan Robinson just played in the NBA Finals, Miami Heat, Williams College, Massachusetts.
Good.
Got Devin George, remember him with the LA Lakers?
Yes, I do.
Augsburg University.
Nice.
Right? Manute Bol,
Oof.
Bridgeport University. Right? These guys, they're out here. Dennis Rodman, Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer.
Cook County. It's there. It's happened. It's proof. Ben Wallace, Virginia Union.
That's right.
But he did it.
That's home.
Absolutely. Straight out of Virginia. Straight out of Virginia. I mean, it goes to show you that if you believe and you put in the work, it's possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amen to that. I mean, you just got to put in the work, like you said. And I think all of those guys that you mentioned, they love the game. They love basketball. Basketball's always been a priority to them. And they all played a long time in the NBA, each and every last one of those guys. And Duncan Robinson, he's just getting started, but with his skill set, his style of play, he's going to play a long time in the NBA as well.
Yep. Pick up his D, he'll be great.
Yeah.
There you go. So this is our roundtable discussion. You know, we like to keep it all 100 on these type of shows.
That's what we do on the roundtable.
Anything else we want to put in for this D3 discussion?
Yeah.
Joe?
Yes. Division I. Support your D3s in your state. Period. You make all that money. You know you need a feeder. It's for these kids is what it really ultimately is for. It's not for your program. It's not for their program. It's for these kids to have opportunity to continue to succeed and excel.
I agree with that. Link up and get it done. Absolutely.
Got to, man.
Before we take them out, anybody got anything else?
I think I'm good. I agree with Joe. You know, there comes a time in life where you may not need something at the moment, but you may need that later. And, you know, with COVID going on, D1 may need D3. So it's a perfect opportunity to work together, support each other. And we all need support in this day of age. And it could even make the D1 school an even bigger school by supporting that D3 school. So perfect opportunity.
That's facts. I like that. Since you quoted Drake, I'm gonna keep it going. Hey, when y'all looking at these guys, man, you know, y'all may think that they're the little guy just because they're in D3. They might look light, but they heavy though. So just know they're out there. So don't overlook them.
Absolutely.
It is, man, for sure. This is your roundtable talk. Commonwealth Sports Talk, Division 3. From Ty Montgomery, Joseph Dillard, I'm Thomas. Commonwealth Sports Talk.